lines of national discussion. Some of the issues we want to punctify includes one, how would the wounds of the Biafra,
Right.
okay, can Biafra wounds ever be healed? I haven't seen what has happened prior 1960 and what actually happened between 1967 and 1970. The agitations as well as the secessionist threats of Biafran people. Can those agitations ever be healed? Looking at the current suspension of Twitter by the federal government, what are the advantages and disadvantages? We'll be looking at the pros and the cons of such decisions. Also, we'll also be looking at the advice from Sheikh Gumi, who recently advised the federal government to involve the Biafran agitator on a dialogue. In concluding generally, we'll also be looking at the actions taken by the state governors in regards to Fulani herdsmen within their locality. So joining me in the studio as we analyze some of this issue is Mr. Matthew Oluku Bienose. Mr. Matthew.
It's a pleasure.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you for having me.
So looking at the headlines in the last couple of weeks down to today, Thursday, what is your take on the wounds of Biafra? We know Biafra had a long historical antecedent before now. Can those wounds ever be healed? Or will the wounds remain forever?
Thank you very much. It's a pertinent question when it comes to do with history of Nigeria. Definitely, the wounds can be healed. It depends on the approach of people who are piloting the affairs of the country. When we look at it, in any scenario, there's always a price for anything at all. So looking at it from that angle, you look at what are the issues that cause the civil war. What are the areas people feel marginalized? I think these are the areas that need to be addressed and people will heave sigh of relief. For instance, it is on record that there have never been an indigene or somebody from eastern extraction of the country to assume that position of presidency. Then looking at the ethnic imbalances that caused the civil war, has it been addressed? So it tells you that if most of these are addressed, it will douse tension and it will sway the mind of people who feel aggrieved. Then if you look at the way the affairs of the country is being piloted currently, it shows you that instead of addressing all these issues, it is not being attended to. And as such, people are having more being more offended. So for me, I believe that the wounds can be healed if the right approach are followed. One, we are looking at 2023 election. I quite agree that there is no law that says that a particular geopolitical zone should produce the presidency at any material time. It is not entrenched in our constitution. But it is a common knowledge that the southeastern part of the country have never produced president of this country since the advent of democracy. I think the right thing to do is to allow the southeastern part of the country to produce the president of this country. And we encourage the two leading political parties, APC and PDP, to zero their candidature to Southeast. Definitely, if you have the two major political parties feeding their candidate, their flag bearer from the southeastern part of the country, eventually, the southeastern part of the country will produce the president. And if that happens, definitely it will assuage the mind of people who feel aggrieved.
So does it mean that the current agitation by the indigenous people of Biafra is political?
To an extent, I would say it's political. Why I'm saying it's political is that only recently, before the recent sit-at-home order by IPO, I listened to Nnamdi Kalu's broadcast, and I was able to decipher. He was talking about inhuman treatment. He was talking about marginalization. I was stressing that these things are not addressed. I was surprised. Ordinarily, I never knew Nnamdi Kanu would mention. So to that extent, if somebody who is even is saying things like that, it shows that there is a it shows that the wound can be healed. It shows that it can be addressed. So for me, I agree that you cannot have 100%. The people cannot 100% accept presidency, but to an extent, if you give that position of presidency, so many persons will feel satisfied. You may not have achieved 100% in terms of assuading the mind of the people, but a great percentage of people in that region will feel satisfied. We have got and sample the opinion of people in the southeast. I quite agreed that the political class, the political gladiators, and their followers would be the ones who jump at it initially. But to an extent, it will address the mind of people who are feeling agitated. I'm saying it particularly because only recently, even this current president, I mean Muhammadu Buhari, in his first dispensation, came up with an idea that some persons who feel aggrieved, some police personnel who fought for Biafra, and some military personnel who fought for Biafra, that there is need to give them their entitlement. And in following it through, this government captured some retired Biafran policemen.
So, which means the Buhari administration has been able to bring the Biafran agitators closer.
He needed to do more. If you even look at the current Secretary of Human Rights Commission, it's Ojuku's son.
So, which also signifies that the government is also trying in its own way to draw the Igbos closer.
But yes, exactly. But what we are saying is that they needed to do more. And some areas where we have seen things skewed against that region, but the government is not addressing it.
Sorry to interrupt. Some people argue that when you check commerce, for example, in Lagos, Igbo is dominating. So why are they complaining about marginalization? When you go to Kano, they will tell you that some businesses are owned by Southeasterners. Even in this administration, I can list a number of Igbos that are holding key positions.
I quite agree with you to an extent. Let me first of all look at the areas where Igbos are holding key positions in this government. If you look at when it comes to ministerial position, by virtue of the provision of the constitution, the hand of the president is tied. He cannot do otherwise because the constitution says you must have one person from each state. So by implication, that federal executive council must have one person represented in each of the 33 states. So to that extent, Mr. President have not done anybody any favor. If you appoint somebody from Ebonyi, from Enugu, from Anambra, from Lagos, from Kano, he is only obeying the constitution. There are some areas where Mr. President, otherwise we are running for the constitution. Let us take issue of security for instance.
Sorry, hold on. For our viewers at home, if you want to join the conversation, you can call 090 255 37142.
That's the general of DSS, IG of police. If you itemize it, there are about 17 positions. And out of these positions, none of them is from the southeast. So by implication, when you look at when it just opposite with the federal character, it tells you that Mr. President has grossly violated that constitution. To that extent, if somebody who is from southeast is talking about secession, is agitating for secession, he will be justified on the basis that this government is not accommodating people from that geographical zone. More so, as they will look at, you see, in every human endeavor, interest is paramount. Look at American recent election. Joe Biden had majority of vote from the black because that is where they feel their interest will be protected. In the same vein, if you do things and you skew it against a people, there is bound to be reaction. So what we are saying in essence is that the government needs to do more in terms of giving people sense of belonging. And to worsen the whole issue, you see Fulani in every structure of the society. And the government look as if government is...
States have also contributed to this in a way. Because sometimes You have senators, you have member of the House of Rep, you have local government chairman, you have, so to an extent, what is the role of those people in some of these key national issues?
Personally, unfortunately, I classify all political class in Nigeria, whether the conspirators they have conspired against the common man, because they are only there because of their pecuniary interests.
But the common man voted for them. People voted for them.
If we go into the nitty-gritty of how election is won in Nigeria, you find out that what you call election in Nigeria is just people using force to perpetuate themselves into power. Because in the sense of it, if you want to have a free and fair election, somebody who is eligible to vote, we should go and vote without intimidation, without influence, without being induced with money. But in Nigeria, what you see is people being coerced, people stuffing ballot boxes, people forcing people to. In fact, our politicians win election by force. But to stay on the.
So you're implying that we don't have true representation of the people.
What I'm saying in essence is people who are supposed to be representatives of the people, they are only there because of their peculiar interests. They are not there because of the common man. The man is going from Ebonyi, who is going from Enugu, who is coming from Lagos, who is coming from Delta, who is coming from Kano. They are only going there because of their peculiar interests. They are not interested in the well-being of the people. It is only recently that insecurity is already threatening everybody, irrespective of your status, that you now see them speak out in the hollow chamber. Ordinarily, the man who is a rep member, a senator, is not interested because if they move around with security, they have all the resources to move around with security.
So what is the way forward now? Because looking at the state at which we're moving as a nation, what do you think is the way forward? Because solution is what we need.
The solution and the way forward is simple. We need to go back to true federalism. Because if we go back to true federalism, it will address all the agitation, all the concern of everybody, whether from the southwest, whether from the southeast, whether from the south-south, whether from the north-central, whether from the northeast. It will address every concern of every interest group. And more so, as we are operating a grand norm, a constitution that is forced on Nigerians by the military. That is another issue. Because go and look at the preamble of the 1999 Constitution. It tells you that we, the people of Nigeria, and there's never a time in the history of Nigeria where people came together, whether by way of conference, whether by way of national dialogue, whatever means, to come about that constitution. So that is why I tell you that we need to go back to true federalism. There are some there are conferences that already have results, that if the government is willing, they can leverage on it. But if the government feel that because it is not their work, they don't want to rely on it, they have that ample opportunity to even summon a sovereign national conference, a national discourse, where you now draw people from every interest group. And it should be such that the people are coming to represent their people willingly, not you handpicking and choosing who to represent the people. And if you are doing it, let all interests be represented. Especially like we have Anana Dekalo, who is leading an agitation from the southeast. We have a Sunday who is leading an agitation from the southwest. If you're having a national discourse, a sovereign national conference, those people should lead interest group.
Okay, let me call the phone lines again for those of you who want to join us in the conversation and also lend your opinions to be heard. The phone numbers to join the conversation is 09025537142. 09025537142. So, Mr. Machi, let's add on while we're rounding up that very conversation so we can move on to
okay, like what we are hearing or seeing recently now, that even Shegumi is already encouraging federal government to open a dialogue, a negotiation, a discussion with Anana Dekalo.
Yes, we're moving towards that part of conversation. So go on.
So what I'm saying is, you see that whatever conflicts, be it domestic, be it international, it ends on a round table. We saw the conflict between Israel, Palestine, that Gaza Strip. At a point, American envoy came in to negotiate for peace. Before you knew it, peace was broken. So whatever happens, it must end on a round table. And the earlier you bring people to that round table, the better. Because one, but the more you delay it, you are wasting human resources, you are wasting material resources, you are wasting time, you are wasting financial resources. So the earlier you make that platform available for people to negotiate and proper solution, the better. And I think that is the area our government is found wanting.
Do you see the current administration led by Muhammadu Buhari doing any of these things you're talking about?
It's unfortunate doing it.
Why
And again, his antecedents are proving that he may not do it.
Okay.
Because you see, in every scenario like this, I think carrot and stick approach is always better. But it's unfortunate that in Nigeria, it is only when, as the Nigerian government will always like to call it, non-stick actors. It is only when they have that potency to engage the government to the point where they will not defy the sovereignty of the nation. That is only when the government will start talking of peace negotiation. At a point, if a Shakal, the leader of Boko Haram, had wanted a talk with federal government, they would jump at it. Because a Shakal have proven that he had the capacity to defy Nigerian sovereignty. As we speak, we don't know the variety of the information that ISWAP have neutralized Shakal. If that is true, if ISWAP, who is not a governmental, is not a known government, a recognized government globally, could have that potency, that power to go into Sambisa forest, which is even Nigerian territory, to fight and force a Shakal to commit suicide. And this is somebody who have endured an Nigerian onslaught for more than 9 years now. It tells you that there's something fundamentally wrong with the Nigerian system.
Okay. But looking at it in summary as a whole, if this government does not have the political will to call for a dialogue, what do you think should be the way forward for the Biafran agitation? What do you think they should be looking at for? Continue, stop, or to move to a process where the agitation struggle will almost be related to what is happening in the Northeast? Or what do you think is the way forward?
I think the way forward is the people who are piloting the affair of the agitation are even already moving ahead with another stage of the struggle. But for what I can understand, Nnamdi Kanu and his group have been able to secure a lobby firm in America that they are paid $750,000, which is equivalent of 300 million naira. So for somebody who have been able to do that, you see that it's a serious business. So I think they should do more of non-violence agitation because it is recognized by Western laws. There is a UN charter that talks about self-determination, and the Nigerian government is a signatory to it. So that even show the reason federal government will always want to push you to the war, to force you to go by violence, so that they could come against you with brute force. But I think going forward, because however I will look at it, until the agitation is addressed, there's bound to be the agitation is bound to continue. Because what we are seeing is an ideological war. It's an ideology thing. It is not because for somebody who is from the average man who is from the southeast, he is being sensitized. The child who is giving birth to today will grow up to join the struggle. So the earlier you address it from the ideology point of view, the better. Because until you do that, you are not solving the problem.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Matthew.
Thank you very
much. In moving forward, for those watching us live and those who also want to be part of the conversation, you can call us using the number 09025537142. 09025537142. In moving forward, looking at the Twitter ban, what are the pros and cons if we have to estimate Nigeria in a committee of nations, considering the global structure of what social media has been used to achieve or its contribution, both negative and positively, and considering Nigeria as an investment hub for those who want to invest in technology. So, what are the advantages or disadvantages in considering this Twitter ban and the governmental response and the international community as a whole?
Thank you very much. I think let me build some premises. You see, the world, like you said, is already a global village, and like UN, Nigeria is part of UN. And go and check Article 19 of UN Universal Declaration of Human Rights. It tells you that everyone have right to freedom of opinion and expression, and this right includes to hold opinion without discrimination, without interference, to hold, to seek and impart information and ideas through any media, regardless of frontier. You understand? Let's look at what our extant laws say here, because there's this legal rule that say that you cannot punish someone without a law, and there's this principle. There's this principle that says that, of course, you cannot punish somebody without a law. And if you look at our constitutional jurisprudence, it is there that you must not punish somebody where there is no law. If you go and look at section 36, subsection 12 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, it talks about freedom of expression. So having seen all this, it tells you that Nigerian government is wrong by all standards. Then looking at it globally, I've taken time to look at all the consulates in Nigeria, the British High Commission, Canadian High Commission, American High Commission, even European Union High Commission. Their position is clear. It points to the fact that you cannot trample on people's rights. So, and if you look at in fact, our government, they are really cleaning this nation in the committee at the level of commission of states, because there is no basis for asking Nigerians not to use Twitter, not to use social media, more so as it is their right, even in your own local law. So for me, I think the government should save us this shame. And if you look at the economic impact, as of yesterday, even day before yesterday, Nigeria businesses have lost up to 4.4 billion naira.
Sorry, I think the call is coming. So, hello.
Hello.
Good evening.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Okay, good afternoon. You're on to the pundit. Your name, sir?
Yeah, I'm Engineer Binga. I'm calling from Kaduna.
Okay, Engineer Binga Kaduna.
Yeah.
Okay, sir.
I'm a fan of your morning show.
Oh, thank you very much, sir.
Can I contribute to the program?
Definitely, sir.
Okay. My contribution is very simple. And I want to ask a long term. I'm looking at the long term effect of what we're discussing, or what is happening in the country.
Okay, sir.
The issue of breakup, settling, they are calling it. I think breakup is not a bad thing. Most foreign countries are now broken up, and without issues, without fight. If Nigeria has a breakup, I don't think we should be sending everybody to go back in order to work. It should be very simple. It should be back on the table, where we can call all the other states now within the capital zone, if it starts to go to the north, to sit down, and they are not doing that. But the way the world of opportunities are not separation, that is one. And secondly, the financial basis. What is after the breakup, what next?
No,
Because that is not, for example, at the Yoruba man, everybody should although I would just do this point to Robert and Robert, we got one also another book further some book and the time you go.
Oh,
I want to guys listen to that. Thank you very much.
okay. Engineer Gbenga.
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. I don't know if I'll have, in order to look at it from another perspective. Is it the current structure? Is it from the current structure, the federal government, or from the east, to even start discussing that topic? That's where I'm looking at it from. Who do you think should be in a position to call? Oh, Engineer Gbenga just dropped the call. I was trying to ask him that who is going to call for the conversation that people will sit and talk about.
That is where it falls back to the federal government.
So do you think the federal government who oppose the constitution of indivisibility, one United Nations, will sit to call for a splitting of its entity?
You see, we are like in a dilemma. The reason is simple. Even this very constitutional amendment, there is no hope that it will get.
And tell you that, or probably tell Engineer Gbenga that let the Odua come first. Other issues of who is more Ekiti or who is more Yoruba than the other will be addressed later. Because some people, some school of thought has also brought out the ideas that there are smaller nations that are together and have other distinct ethnic groups within, like Benin Republic, Cameroon, Ghana, and they're doing better. So I don't know. I wish he can call back, but whichever will be on Twitter ban before his call came.
Okay. Then looking at the broader angle, there is a broader angle to that Twitter ban. You see, Nigerian government, they do not listen. That is why I encourage even Twitter, because I can understand the Minister of Information and Culture, the person of Lai Mohammed, said recently that Twitter have reached out to federal government for purpose of negotiation. I would even encourage Twitter to tarry. There's no point negotiating with federal government. The reason is simple. Because what Lai Mohammed is saying is that they must register with Corporate Affairs Commission. And the type of regulation we infringe on the right of the users. What I expected Twitter to do is to tarry and allow Nigerians who have decided to join issue with federal government in court for court to decide those cases. I can understand Sirab is in court. I can understand some other persons are in court. Sirab is in ECOWAS court. Now that the judicial workers have resumed from their strike, by Monday, I think Sirab and some other person will be engaging federal government in court. So that let court decide whether it is right for federal government to infringe on people's rights by way of asking Nigerians not to use social media.
So what is the implication for business expert? But before you answer that, let me call the phone lines if you want to join us in the conversation. 09025537142. 09025537142 for those who want to join us in the conversation. And let us also know your opinion on some of the topical issues we are talking about today. So, Mr. Mike,
the implication of a business expert, like you said, is enormous. I happen to met a friend who runs a business of seeking admission for people from Turkey. In fact, like 3 high institutions in Turkey gave him license to help them. In fact, to bring students to their school. He told me that before the Twitter ban, that he was already having conversation with 2 or 3 persons from one African country anyway. That as soon as they shut down Twitter, that he lost the conversation. I tried to discuss the issue of VPN with him. He did not know much about it. But as the discussion went on, he was able to get VPN and he saw that his Twitter was up and running. What am I trying to say? If he didn't have idea on how to go about the VPN, definitely he would have lost that conversation and that business would have stopped. There are so many people who do place their advert on Twitter. they sell their product on Twitter. I can understand that many Nigerians are violating the Twitter ban by passing the network through VPN and they are using Twitter. But there are a good number of Nigerians who are obeying, even as they know that they could use VPN. So many businesses are suffering. So many people are not advertising. So many people are not closing deal, and as such, it is having serious impact on Nigerian businesses.
Okay, so what about the government have argued that it's because of national security. So, in your own view, don't you think national security is a very good argument from the part of the government?
National security, the issue is this. That is why if you see a government that is not reasoning, it's unfortunate.
We have master's degree with a PhD.
I will tell you the reason I say they are not reasoning.
I checked the Lai Mohammed's profile.
He's a lawyer.
So how
the reason is
how
this.
do we start
Thank God you even mentioned Lai Mohammed. And look at his profession.
Gabasho happens to be a journalist. Yes.
Yes. Look at the implication now. Look at what we are saying. You see somebody in our thing to say in essence is there are instances where there are instances where somebody would have run foul of the constitution using social media. What you do is you get your necessary information, you get your evidence, you take that person to court.
But
not
there
shutting
are cases
down
whereby some of the actions might not be libel or slander, but an act of terrorism. Like in the United States, at a particular point in time, there was a trace from the FBI that a communication link was established using tweets by terrorist organization. And they have argued, it's a national security issue that I don't think they would have disclosed everything to the citizens, that the NSAS was largely influenced by Twitter.
If you say the NSAS was influenced by Twitter,
and we saw what happened, the destruction.
Look at where our government is not getting it right. There is nothing wrong in Nigerians protesting against Twitter. Protesting against SARS.
Okay.
There is nothing wrong in Twitter funding the protest. Because Nigerian youth were protesting.
There's also nothing wrong with the government ensuring that the country is safer and a place to live, because it is when you're safe terrorism, that is when you will have functioning tweets.
That is why you need to isolate people who are committing crime and prosecute them.
But government have been prosecuting.
Cutting the heads have never been solution for headache. If people committed crime in the course of protesting against SARS brutality, you isolate them, you prosecute them. And I want to tell you this, go and verify. It is after,
not better to
there's something I wanted to bring to your knowledge. Okay. It is after the government of Lagos State banned and imposed coffee in Lagos that you started seeing destruction, arson, and others.
It was as a result of the information used by the social media that's been suspended.
You will equally agree with me that at Lekki Tollgate, it was a peaceful
would that have happened had it been Twitter was suspended from the ab initio?
It is not about suspending Twitter. It's about what is the people's rights. You cannot tell me that, okay, I'll give you a scenario now. Is it right now? If because people...
Sorry, I think we'll have a call. Yeah, hello, good evening.
Hello, how are you?
Fine. Good evening. What's your name or where are you calling from, sir?
Yeah, I'm calling from the UK, and my name is I'm on the chat there at Twitter. And I think some of these discussions, I think some people need to, people on the ground in Nigeria. I know we are going through a lot of problems. We are all suffering, and I left Nigeria too, and came overseas. But what people tend to see when they are overseas is that they have a better overview of the world. And some of the things our people say about like what Wally did with Twitter and what is going on in the country, we don't have an overview of what the situation is. We react because we are in pain with what the government is doing, how they are failing us. But remember, it's not only Nigeria that is being failed. Almost all African countries are being failed. Almost all blacks in the world are being failed. There is a reason why. It's not because of that people man next to you, not because of the outside man. There's a greater force at play here. There's a reason why our people were enslaved and colonized. Those things, we have to start waking up to those dangers. Our country, as we see Nigeria today, we think we are defended. We are not. We have very few security forces compared to other nations like America, UK, even Algeria. Unfortunately, why are we surprised we have lack of security? If we don't secure ourselves like every other nation does. See, let me give you numbers here. You have Algeria, it's 40 million, around 43 million people, 800,000 soldiers. Nigeria, with 200 million, with 300,000. By that proportion, we should have almost 2 million. Why don't we have that? If we have that, you think Boko Haram would be there in a big one messing about? We just need 100,000, 200,000 soldiers to watch them out of Nigeria. What are our young people to the streets? When I was in Nigeria, I saw the graduates selling top ups, driving taxis, doing stuff that don't have anything to do with enhancing the nation. They are jobless. Why are they not employing them, putting them into the military? Nigerians today, you ask them, how much do you think Nigerians are willing to pay for their security? If they ask them to pay 1,000 naira every month, they pay for their security. That if they tell them you pay 1,000 naira, the money is going to go directly to the soldier.
Hello?
Yeah, what do you think? Will Nigerians pay 1,000 naira each every month to secure the country so that they can drive from Lagos to Kaduna in peace? Nobody's being kidnapped. No students are being kidnapped. Do you think Nigerians will pay for that?
It depends, but I think Nigerians, depending on where they stay, some estates pay more than that a month for security.
So what if they don't need to pay to estates?
To Nigeria, some people will argue that the money at governmental disposal, if you've been to Nigeria recently, the average convoy should be maybe 20. Buhari just came to Lagos not quite long, and you can watch it on YouTube. You need to see the Prados that was packed in order to welcome the president. So the governor coming to welcome the president from neighboring states. So people will tell you, or Nigerians might tell you that looking at what the affluence, some of the elites live, it is irrational to say that there's no money to handle security issues. Recently, if you check our debt profile, Nigeria has gotten to a stage of more than 13 trillion. So if you're looking at some of the yardsticks, some of these people argue too. So telling them to pay 1,000 when you can see a Prado Hilux of maybe 10, 13 vehicles, and that is the way the governor carries the convoy, the deputy governor, the House of Assembly members with police escort. So the common man or the person living maybe room and parlor, maybe 2-bedroom flat or 3, won't want to pay 1,000 naira and has a Tokumbo of 1.5 million naira vehicle. I'm just thinking, I might tell you that to Nigeria, how?
Let me give you an idea of what the scale of what we are dealing with here.
Okay.
US, you know how much budget they passed this year? 2 trillion, going to 3 trillion.
Yes.
You know how much Nigeria passed in budget? That is like a tiny drop. Nigeria's national debt last year was around $28 billion. $28 billion, the entire Nigerian national debt. You know how much the UK spent on COVID-19 response alone? 300 billion. 300 billion. That's a country of about 66 million people.
Yes, true.
So when you start pointing fingers at your politicians, understand the world they are operating in. They have to go out and buy same equipment. That same country that is spending 300 something billion is spending money to buy. And this is a problem that we have, that we at home and the ones overseas, we have an overview of what is going on. But the ones at home don't have it. They are suffering and they react according to the pain that they are feeling. And this is why the communication is paid directly to the soldiers, not to the politician, not to anybody. It goes straight to the soldiers that are being employed to secure your country. Do you know what happens when you secure your country? Many Nigerians will be returning back with a lot of money to spend, employ people. I know Nigerians that are building houses in Ghana because they are afraid to come back to Nigeria. I know many doctors in the US that are afraid to come back to Nigeria because of all the insecurity. Every time they complain about insecurity, if you have paid for that, it will pay for itself because the money that will flow into the country, for even Nigeria alone, will pay for all those things by itself.
Okay.
You see how we are cheating ourselves. $1,000 seems like a lot. When in the West here, that is a tiny, tiny drop for the debt. In the amount I pay for electricity bill here in the UK, it's equivalent to, let me give you the numbers. Almost 150,000.
But to Nigeria, we also need to compare the minimum wage in both countries. 30,000 naira converted to pounds or euros. I mean, so if we're looking at some statistics of somebody was telling me it pays about is it almost similar amount in electricity and some household expenditure, I think in the US, and I told him that that might not be obtainable. Looking for the argument, some school of thought here also has placed the minimum wage here is 30,000 naira. Would you believe that some graduates find it hard to even get a job that will give them the 30,000 naira in this same country?
Yeah. I know. I employ people in Nigeria too, so I know how difficult it is on the ground there.
Okay.
And I appreciate how difficult it is. One thing we have to understand is that there are poor people here too.
Yes, true.
There are people that choose to either heat their house, that's to keep warm, or eat in this country. There are poor people everywhere. And it's not gonna, we don't expect it to be easy. If you expect that Nigeria will get out of where it is right now, easily, then you have not studied what happened in the war. You must have heard of the Mao Revolution, you heard of what happened in Russia, you heard of what the Western people did. They had to make a lot of sacrifices to get where they got to. It's going to be messy. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. We're already suffering anyway. So what are we changing? We are already suffering. All we are saying is that we need to start making smart decisions that is going to benefit us. Best thing is security. Without security, anything you do can be reversed very quickly. Everything you do, you're building on sand. Nigeria right now, and it's not only Nigeria, this is a secret that most people don't tell any Nigerians, Africans. Africans are underdefended. We don't have security. Our security forces, look at the numbers. When you finish this program, go and check the numbers. So you see the nakedness of Africans, especially South Africans. It's not the Northern Africans. The Northern Africans have reasonable level of security like the rest of the world. Why?
Yeah, but to Nigeria, in order to round up, in order to let other viewers also call through, the point is, because I've listened to also Nigerians within Nigeria, is that in implementing some of these your suggestions, maybe the ordinary man might not be able to have the avenue of implementing such.
The government must take
The government is the one that would take the bulk of that's what I think. I don't know your opinion on ways you probably feel and I think it's even easier having some access to some of these people, governmental positions overseas than when they're in Nigeria. So I think our diasporas are maybe not doing enough to hold down like some of them there because they have access there than when they're here with their security apparatus and network and militarization, which is endemic in third world nations. That's what I think. But whichever way, I really admire your contribution.
Let me say something, please, before I go.
Okay.
First I'll make one suggestion. I think you should have make some arrangement with Australians so that you have people in the diaspora be able to actually join the panel and discuss some of all these things. Because you have African Americans coming, you have British, Nigerians coming, and you have people like me in the West to come into the discussion. So you guys, you start understanding because I've seen some of you on the roadside in Opa and all that, and when people are talking, and I pull my hair out. Like, if people only understood who your true constituents and rivals are, you think Nigeria don't have enemies. What is happening in that country is not normal. That's not how the world operates.
Hmm.
And we, as the people, have to start pulling ourselves up by ourselves. We can't wait for other people to come and save us. We have young men like you there. We have young men all over the place, smart young men that can do a lot more, and we are not utilizing them. And we have a mentality of thinking that the government is going to do everything. You know what that does to us? It divorces us from holding them accountable. But if we put our money, because I know my people that work for me have told me that the government takes money out of their account every month. They can take 1,000 naira out of their account. If you are poor, you won't have money in your account, so there's no money for them to take. But if they see money in your account, it shows that you have money. If they take 1,000 naira from your account every month to help with payments for security, see, I've seen Nigerians pay millions to get their child out of the exams from this thing. I've seen Nigerians avoid business, avoid going to farms, because they are trying to avoid being kidnapped for billions. What? If you pay for security, all that goes away. And the truth is, that's how the world works. Do the numbers, check online, you are online right now, check. And see, you have to secure your country, you have to take care of your own people. You don't need Western people to tell you how you feel.
Okay.
If you are waiting for another woman's husband to come and tell you, what help you?
Okay, to Nigeria, thanks.
Your wife shouldn't respect you.
Okay, thank you very much for your contribution. We really appreciate your call.
Thank you.
Okay, bye. So we heard from one of our callers from the UK. He had a different view to virtually most of us.
Yes, I was trying to paint the scenario before the call came in. You were asking about
The Twitter ban and implications to the business world and investment.
And I was trying to tell you that if that cutting off the head has never been a solution to headache. And I wanted to use a practical example. Only recently, there was a plane crash that killed the chief of army staff. Do you now say we shut our airspace that aircraft should not fly in? That would not be a solution. The Accident Investigation Bureau have recovered the black box. They are doing the investigation, and Nigeria aviation is still operational.
So indirectly, are you saying that?
What I'm saying in essence is this: that if there is a crime perpetrated by a Twitter user, a Facebook user, an Instagram user, there are extant laws that will address it. You gather your evidence and charge that person to court, rather than shutting down that social media.
What if in a situation the government is looking at a bigger picture?
If you look at part of the bigger picture they are looking at, it wasn't yesterday, La Mohammed was talking about that Twitter is not paying tax.
That might be part of it. It's part of national security.
As if that is the reason behind their move.
It might be part of it.
But even if it's part of it, nothing stopped them from engaging with Twitter even before now and tell them that you cannot have as much as 40 million Nigerians on your platform making money for Nigeria and you are not paying tax. I'm not saying they should not pay tax.
So you feel Twitter should pay tax?
Even if they want to pay tax, shutting down Twitter is not the way to go. For whatever reason they are taking that decision, shutting down Twitter in Nigeria is not the right
decision
approach.
A wise decision from the government?
It's not wise.
Why do you say that?
Because you don't throw away the baby with the bathwater.
There is no baby here. The government is trying to protect the baby.
The baby
which is the country.
People who are doing their business, people who are advertising on Twitter, people who earn their daily have their daily earning on Twitter.
The federal government said that it is when you have a nation you can do business. Meaning, if the nation is not secured, I'm quoting the federal government, you can't do business.
Okay, why did the government undeservedly run their campaign on Twitter? I mean, this current government.
Because it was safe then, maybe.
You see, it is not. What is wrong. It doesn't matter how you look at it. Because by all standard, don't mind what Trump is saying currently. Applauding Nigerian government and encouraging other government.
So you mean I should not mind the former president?
Yes, of course. Because he was in the saddle as the president I only advance my opinion.
Okay.
He was in the saddle as the president of the United States of America. Twitter said he violated their ethics, their rules,
and they deleted
and
his tweet.
they deleted his tweets. And he knew the implication of taking this type of action that the Nigerian government is taking.
So is Trump playing mind game?
Maybe. Because if Trump had taken the decision against Twitter,
maybe
the Twitter will go to court in America.
Maybe Trump was not wise enough as at that time, or he miscalculated.
That is not the issue. Don't forget that even Trump, as a sitting president, had an issue with a CNN reporter that was banned from White House. CNN and some other media organization went to court and court arrested the guy, and the guy came back to White House. Trump was only staying there because he was elected to serve a term. It is not his personal house. More so, now Aso Rock is not Buhari's personal building.
But he's the president for now.
I agree with you.
So he need to work.
I agree with you. That he need to work does not mean that he should be violating the constitution.
So what's the way forward?
The same constitution that give me right as a president give me right of freedom of expression and to hold opinion.
But if your expression is moving towards tendency of what the government, whose role is to protect life and
that is why the government should know when I am stepping beyond my rights and prosecute me.
Okay.
And allow the other man who is operating within the ambit of the law to enjoy the platform.
Okay.
That is where that issue comes in, that you cannot cut off the head in order to treat the headache. So however we look at it, the man who is using Twitter legitimately, operating within the should not be suffering as a result of this violation of one person. Some other person have argued. You are talking about Nnamdi Kanu. And you understand that Twitter, the way they operate, before they take a decision, users will report a tweet. People now argue, was there any time Nigerian government reported any Nnamdi Kanu's tweets and Twitter did not take action to justify their position? I don't think so. So what I was saying in essence is, not even what I expected Twitter to do is they should carry a little bit. Rushing to negotiate with the Nigerian government is going to put them in a feast. Because by the time they now come and register with Corporate Affairs Commission here,
do you feel that's a
they will be subjected to. I don't think so. But what I'm trying to say in essence is this: there are some persons who are already joining issue with Nigerian government in court. The Nigerian judicial workers, they will be resuming on Monday. So by all indication, by Monday, Sirap and some other persons and some other bodies will be joining issue with Nigerian government in Nigerian court. ECOWAS court, Sirap is already joining issue with Nigerian government. So I think they should allow this issue to be ventilated in court. Let court make a pronouncement.
So what if court decides in favor of the government?
We'll see how that happens, but I don't think that will be the case. Because these issues are very clear. Because you cannot ask people not to express them. I quoted a UN declaration on human rights here. It talks about you holding your opinion and expression without discrimination. It talks about irrespective of frontier. And that frontier is talking about territorial boundary of nation. Meaning you can even do it across border. So what we are saying is our federal government, they are dragging Nigeria in the mud.
What does that portray for investors who want to invest in Nigeria? Because ordinarily, an average investor might be thinking otherwise. So what do you think the government should do?
You see, look at what Muhammadu Buhari said today in that interview he had with Arise. He said that Nigerian youths are the ones scaring investors. He said they should behave themselves so that they could ask investors to come.
Behave themselves in one context because
he's trying to say that Nigerian youths are hitting up the polity. Now, look at the reason Twitter gave Ab Initio for starting their office in Ghana. They cited Ghana being champion of democracy. They cited Nigeria, their history of human rights violation. And these are no facts. What we are saying is, If
So you feel Ghana democratically is better than Nigeria?
Ghana may not be there, but you don't hear what we are seeing here. You don't hear such in Ghana. Okay, look at what happened in Lagos State during NSAS. I've said it severally. Go and verify, it's on record. Mojishola Dada, the chief coroner of Lagos State, on 19 October 2020, made a public announcement asking Lagosians who lost their loved ones to go to Lagos State Teaching Hospital. Consequent upon that, Falana, that constitutional lawyer, human rights activist, made an inquiry and discovered that over 98 corpses were dumped in various mortuaries in Lagos. And as at the time he was making that inquiry, he said only 20 families have come forward to claim their corpse. About 70 have not. What I was saying, you see a protest only in Lagos State during that NSAS, about 98 persons were killed. And as we speak, there is no conscious effort from the government to address it.
Don't you feel the protest was moving now from normal protest to maybe an insurrection, and the government cannot fold its hand?
If it was moving towards that direction, the rightful thing for government to do, there are stages of quelling.
Like what are the stages?
The government had option of using water cannon.
But the government already said they are going to implement all the NSAS acts for. So one should have feel that they should leave.
Opening fire and killing peaceful protesters at Lekki Tollgate, was it the right approach? Obviously no. Because what transpired at Lekki Tollgate showed that we have an irresponsible military in Nigeria. Come to think of it, if you are given an order to go and kill, I mean as a military person, you subject that order to some analysis. Is it legitimate? Is it ethical? There's a third one. What I'm trying to say, you are even legally right if you refuse to shoot, if you subject it to those three factors. What I'm trying to say in essence is there was no basis for that shooting. I go and look at
the military has denied that they shot.
But the evidence are there. It speaks volume. If all the evidence we are seeing is anything to go by, there is ample evidence to show that the Nigerian military opened fire on the defenseless citizens.
Before we summarize the last question on the Twitter ban, which is, I'm looking at, what do you think would be the repercussion for foreigners and the perception of Nigeria within the global world? But before you go ahead with that question, for those who want to join us in the conversation or want their opinions to be heard, you can please call us with the number 09025537142. 09025537142. So, Mr. Matthew, in considering Nigeria as it stands now and the news of the nation globally, what do you think those outside will be viewing Nigeria as, and how would that affect us positively?
You see, if you look at the way the world is, they will be looking at Nigeria as a country that have no respect for rule of law. They will look at Nigeria as a country that if I come here to invest, chances are that they will violate my rights. Chances are that they will flout the agreement we enter into. I'm saying it particularly because you have a country who is a signatory or who is a member of UN, and you have an act of UN that protects people's rights, and the government is violating it. What is the guarantee that the man who is in America, the man who is in Canada, the man who is in Germany, bringing his money to invest here, what is the guarantee that the government will not violate his rights? What is the guarantee that his business will be protected by the extant laws, that the government will not circumvent it? If the government can violate a global law that they are seeing, then what is the guarantee that they will not violate their own against you who is bringing money here to invest? So looking at it from that perspective, it is going to deter investors from coming to Nigeria. More so, Look at Joe Biden's
So I think we have a call. I mean, a callers. Hello, good evening.
Yeah, good evening. It's been like that again. I don't know because no one is saying to be calling, but this guy is pissing me off with what he's saying about Twitter and, and the stuff he's talking about. I just said it just now. You can't define your home by how people call you. Who cares what Twitter thinks? Does China care what Twitter thinks? Who is the American company going in China? What they care about is if your country is strong enough to defend their investment. If our country is healthy enough, have the people security to defend their investment, there's good power supply, there's good road networks, there is infrastructure to support their industries, they will come into Nigeria too. It doesn't, Twitter was actually begging to go into China. The Chinese would choke them out. Facebook was begging to go into China, the Chinese choked them out. The Chinese created their own. The Russians, the same thing, they created their own. We have to start learning to think on our feet. Africa is a great continent. As a matter of fact, the greatest continent on earth.
Well, to Niger, if we have to be frank here, looking at China, is China a democratic state? China, I think, is a communist state. And I think some things that probably might work in China or Russia might not be able to work here.
True. I agree with you on that. But
So, in context of that, I think countries where Twitter has been banned in totality is about, Nigeria makes it the 5th country, if I'm not mistaken. There's China, there's Russia, there's North Korea, there's, I think, Syria, and Nigeria. But if you look at the categorization of those countries in question, can we compare Nigeria to North Korea, China, or Russia, or war-torn Syria?
that is not a beautiful take. That's just a beautiful way you just put everything just now. This tells you everything that is wrong with perceive the world. Look at it now. These countries you mentioned, what do you think they all have in common? They have their own self-determination in common. These are people that were once under the control of the West. They all pull themselves out of the control of the West.
But to Nigeria,
Under the control of the West. Let me just finish my point.
okay.
We have been under the control of the West for over how many 100 years right now? What have we got to show for it? We are seeking the approval. Look at our continent. Look at the continent. The people we are seeking approval from are your rivals. Why would you be seeking approval from your own rivals? This is not a child in where you just go and seek approval from people that intend to keep you down. That is not how it works. If you look at all the lists you just named, there are people that just reclaim their destiny. That decide that, okay, we are going to chart our own path in this world. The people that you call democratic are the ones that enslaved our people, that put our people through some of the most horrendous treatments. Why they are giving up Christianity?
But to Nigeria, let's be more factual. I guess Nigeria is not the only country of the world that was colonized or given democracy before now. Number 2 is, if you're looking at the most stable democracies of the world, Nigeria, China or Russia, or not even North Korea, is the most stable countries politically in the world. So if we're putting that into context, are we supposed to imitate these ones, or there are still more stable societies cut across the world, politically, economically more stable than these countries we want to copy from?
Okay, the countries that you call stable are the countries that inflict most of the destructions in the world. They are decimated continents. The reason why they can afford democracy, and remember, whenever democracy doesn't suit them, they change their mood. You know about the Iraq war. You know about how they flouted the law, international law regarding the Iraq war. You know how they flout international law when it comes to torture, when it suits them. Democracy is only used as a tool, just like religion is used as a tool to control people. It doesn't benefit us. The result, you read the Bible all the time, isn't it? They say, by their fruits born for us. What have they done for us? Look at our continent. The people that you listed as bad people, because they tell you that these people are the useless.
No. To Nigeria, I never said they are bad people. I'm just trying to tell you that their mode of governmental operation is different from ours. So in putting that into context of what we claim to practice as a democratic nation, I'm putting it to you, don't you think that China as a communist state, North Korea, cannot be situated in terms of action and equated to Nigeria? That's what I'm asking.
Oh, okay, I agree with you on that one. You keep on the premise of that we are a democratic country, fine. But let me give you examples of Western countries using their own rules. When it comes to Western countries, when you violate their rules, they pass laws to make sure you pay for it. You remember Julian Assange? He was in prison because he was sharing information publicly. How many people are in prison in Nigeria for sharing information publicly?
But that is
This guy,
that should be the duty of the government to take charge if there's a need. I haven't done investigation to see that somebody has flouted the law.
but we know fully well that Twitter did something that was unfair to the Nigerian state because there are other people spewing a lot of hatred here on Twitter that they didn't remove. Then they went and removed the one from the president. But later on, they went and started removing it now. That tells you that they know they let other ones go and they took the one from the president down. Look at what happened last year with the SARS protest. As frustrated as Nigerians youths are, and they are right to be frustrated and they protested, but the outcome was that it destroyed the security agency that they didn't have anything to replace it. And look at the state of security in the country today. These type of things, when people think the government are stupid, that's when they don't understand how states work.
Okay, to Nigeria. Okay. I think my colleague here wants to, Mr. Matthew, want to ask one or two things.
I quite appreciate your disposition, but if you look at the whole scenario, what the government is doing, whose interests are they protecting? Because you are speaking from your own understanding, but we are here on ground. And if you look at the way the government run affairs, its affairs here, they are not protecting the interests of the common man. I don't know whether you actually take cognizance when I was talking about what transpired at Lekki Tollgate, the way they massacre Nigerians. So they are only doing this because of their pecuniary interests. They are not doing it because of the common man. I quite understand what you are saying, that in a state society, what you needed to do is to develop at your own pace, independent of what the West is doing. I agree with that. But here in Nigeria, the government, they are only doing this just because of their own pecuniary interest, not because of the common man, not because they even want the country to grow or develop.
See, let me explain something to you. A metro station was opened up in Lagos just today or yesterday. Was that for Buhari to be riding on? The Niger bridge that we have, is that Buhari that is riding on that bridge? The train station that ran through my village when I went to Nigeria recently, was that for Buhari to ride? See, we have to be careful of turning on our own leaders constantly. What we forget, we have to hold our leaders accountable, but not always be too cynical, because what you are doing there, you are creating problems to every solution. Anytime somebody comes up with a solution that, oh, that guy is trying to be evil, or they try to fix this one, oh, he's trying to be evil. Take it for what it is. Sometimes they actually try to do it for the right reasons. Buhari is one of the women in Nigeria there. He's not thrown from space. He actually made it. He's trying to help the best way he knows how. Just because you don't understand fully, and I blame him for it, because he doesn't talk, doesn't mean he actually means harm. Because if you look at it from where I sit here, I actually think the action he took was courageous. He wasn't backing down just because they are Africans, they are Americans, so we should just let them violate our countries.
But,
we know what happened in the Arab War.
But what we are saying, nobody.
Let me give you another example. The Arab Wars, they call it Arab Spring, didn't it?
Yes.
That was what at the forefront. Twitter and Facebook was at the forefront. What happened to the Arab War for it? Look at Syria. Look at Egypt.
Was it Twitter that was the cause for that? Sorry, to Nigeria.
The problem we are facing now is coming from Libya that was as a result of the Arab Spring.
If you can hear me. Okay. Nobody is saying that if the government does right, that we should not acknowledge it. And nobody is saying that the train that are commissioning, the railway that are commissioning is not infrastructure development or that is not good. But what we are saying is that There are areas where we feel, because we are on ground here, that the government is not doing enough and the government is not addressing it. I don't know whether you took cognizance when I was talking about the issue of insecurity in this country, as it has to do with every strata of the society, and that you have a common denominator, which is the Fulani herdsmen, ravaging every strata of the society. And the government seems to be complacent in their approach to addressing it. I don't know whether you take cognizance of that. Then secondly, so that you carry it together. Let me chip in another thing. When I talk about issue of screwing things against southeastern part of the country, when it comes to issue of security, that we have about 17 positions, ranging from the position of the National Security Advisor, Chief of Army Staff, Chief of Defence Staff, Chief of Naval Staff, Police, is about 17. That none of them is from Southeast. And in Nigeria, you have you have in the constitution federal character that is being flouted by the government. I don't know whether you want to address that.
Okay, so thank you for that point. Regarding the Fulani matter, the Fulani, issue just came up since Buhari became president. Let's hope by the time he goes away, people will forget that Fulani is ever existed. And secondly, the fact that we forget that Fulanis have been in Africa for thousands of years. We have lived with this, but what has changed? When I was growing up in Nigeria, seeing them carry their cows into Nigeria. Why is there, what has changed in the calculus of what is going on in Nigeria right now? What I think is happening is that our country is being destabilized and we are being set up to tear ourselves to pieces. This is how our forefathers fought each other, and what happened?
To Nigeria.
It's not always, when you turn, let me finish my point. When you turn against your own, it's not going to do you any good. The whole world is playing a different game right now. If we keep playing this tribal game, we will lose 100% of the time. Other people have NATO. Other people have 1 billion China. Other people have 1 billion Indians protecting them. Who is protecting us?
Sorry, let me just remind you something. Sorry. Let me just remind you something, sir. If you look at the current governor of Kano State, in the person of Ganduje, he recently said that the panacea to end the clashes between the host communities and Fulani herdsmen, that there is every need to stop the mass exodus of Fulani herdsmen from neighboring African countries like Niger, like Mali, like Burkina Faso. So what does that tell you, sir?
Security.
Okay.
That was the first point today. Security. If you don't secure your border first, you can't solve the rest of the problem.
No, sir. Let me quickly remind you. Let me quickly remind you what transpired in Oyo State recently. Only recently, some Fulani herdsmen invaded Ibarapa, not local government. No, Ibarapa community in Igongo community in Ibarapa, not local government of Oyo State, and killed several persons. And as at the last count, I don't know whether you are conversant with Sunday Igboho, he visited that Igongo community. According to the allegation he raised, that he wanted to go into the forest to engage the herders, that about 5 or 6 healers of military personnel intercepted him and prevented him from going to the forest. What do you have to say about that, sir?
Yeah, if they intercepted him, maybe they are intercepting him for a reason that they fear that what he's going to face is something that he doesn't really understand. What is going on in Nigeria right now? In Burkina Faso, there was about, I think in the last 1 month or so, 200 people have been killed in Burkina Faso in non-provoked attacks. They just go in and just kill people. It's happening in Mali. These people, there are people that are going around the world, destabilizing the world. And Libya being destabilized with Twitter and all this stuff that just happened. You see the connection with everything we are talking about here is where the ammunition is flowing from. And northern African countries are strong. They are physically, they have a lot of strong military. So they push all those forces down to the Sahel, and they are moving into West Africa right now, and it's beginning to expose the insecurity of West Africans and Sub-Saharan
Okay.
Africa.
To Nigeria, we are almost rounding up. We have very few minutes left, and thank you for your contribution, and I really appreciate. Maybe tomorrow you can as well join us for a broader conversation. So I really appreciate your conversation.
Because I watch you guys on, on the listen, I really would enjoy engaging more because I think, when I was in Lagos, I was one of those newsstand people that I stand there reading tell and all the rest of it. So we all grew up experiencing the same thing. I was one of those people during the time of Apache. I was like, hey, fighting and all the rest of it.
Yeah, but it seems when you left the country, there's a disconnect in what you're hearing or what you're thinking. And actually, Twitter was not the cause of the war in Syria. I think I need to say that emphatically. Twitter was also not the cause of the insecurity in Nigeria. And I think I need to be very frank about that because insecurity has been existing from Boko Haram to banditry, even kidnapping right from the days of Anini, and so many insecurity might have seen even before Twitter came into existence. So if Twitter is being pushed to be a force that NSAS was used, I think that is an error. It was governmental um, handling that escalated the issue that surrounded NSAS. It was not Twitter. Twitter was only used as a medium of communication. Even after Twitter was banned, Facebook and some other means are still being used. In fact, the protests for June 12th, they suspended Twitter. Some of us have also listened to some argument, which probably have said, if Twitter is banned, there's always an alternative from the Nigerian youth. So those are the points I really wanted to clear. So in as much as I accepted most of the things you've said, but Twitter cannot be used to generalize and say it was is the cause of insecurity in some Mali and some other countries.
Twitter is not single-handedly responsible for it.
Uh-huh.
But Twitter didn't shout.
No, Twitter was a means of communication during the NSAS, which I accept.
And nothing stops the government from prosecuting anyone found wanting using Twitter and any other social media for that matter.
So those are the parts I just.
Twitter embarrassed the government.
No, Twitter did not embarrass the government. I think so. Listen. But I think maybe the government embarrassed Twitter because after all, Twitter is not only in Nigeria. You know how many countries we have in Africa? That is not the only social media platform that is foreign owned. I think we need to go anyway, but maybe some other time we'll talk extensively. Tomorrow, just try as much as possible to call in very early so we can talk robustly. So have a wonderful day.
Okay, good. Get your facts, do all the numbers, everything I've just stated just now, check them out, and then we'll trash these issues.
Thank you very much. Okay, that was a lengthy one. That was a long conversation with two Nigerians. So in summary, obviously we have about I think there's another call coming in. I think
just take that
another call. Hello, good evening. Hello. Good evening. What's your name and where are you calling from, please? Akin from where, sir? New Jersey. Okay, Mr. Akin, I think you. Good afternoon. I think you're conversing with our conversation at the Pundits.
Yes, I know today international. We are doing things today.
Thank you very much, sir.
And good afternoon, international.
Well done, sir.
I follow the background that I didn't make. I'm another follower.
Oh, thank you very much, sir. We want to take your. No, go on.
My contribution is this. I think Nigeria, we are not learning from other countries. Other countries are fought in wars in the past. And I think one thing that actually leads to people being revolting against the government, bad leadership and bad governance. I think, for example, in the Nigerian government, the country is doing well. People who don't even care much about who is in power, who is ruling, who is the president. But, for example, I think the civil war in Rwanda, after the civil war, Rwanda is doing so well that I don't even think whether the civil war is still ruling right now. But in Nigeria, it is not the case. After the civil war, instead of having improved the economy, instead of having growth and development, Nigeria didn't get it right. And to make the matter worse, the president of the day is a nepotism. I mean, I read the respect of him, I think it was in Punch, which was saying that the government is appointed as of merit. That is a ridiculous statement from the president. because all these appointments, if I can remember, all the appointments are just like, it's just funny, so much like Malcolm, ACC, someone like Malami, somebody like, I don't know, somebody from, it's called, all appointments are just people from the north, and you don't really care even if they are considered or not. So to say that, better to say that there is appointments are based on merit is very, very ridiculous. And also, the issue of Twitter, I think the government saying that Twitter needs to pay taxes, and that's why they're banning that. It's an afterthought. It's just they're just scrambling to like try to find excuses for banning Twitter. And also, they said Twitter is threatening the president of Nigeria. When the president actually tweeted what will actually lead to war and bring about open up healing wounds among the people. So I think it's just funny that they don't really think about they don't think about the talk. They just put out statements without even an actual statement. Because if you're saying that Twitter is threatening the president of Nigeria, the president of Nigeria, why are you teaching about what will actually incite violence? So I think that's just an excuse on the president. And even we in diaspora, we are even scared to come home. So are you telling that if people will not come home, if they will not come to Nigeria to invest, now people in Nigeria for vacation, but I don't go elsewhere. Because I don't feel safe. So it's just a situation that we in diaspora, I'm starting that what's happening in Nigeria. And looking for a better Nigeria, and in any way we can help. Look at what happened when I take my state for instance. They went there, they keep people with impunity. And now the governor is not saying they should stay calm, that they are on top of the issue. Now they heard that the governor is now full of laziness. Why is it that after they came and left, that's when the government now reacts? Professionally approach to issues. It's a very sad situation, and that's my contribution.
Thank you very much, Mr. King. Thank you. Really appreciate your contribution. So join us same time tomorrow. We'll be running up in the next 5 minutes. So, okay, thank you very much for your contribution. And whichever way, you can as well meet some of the dignitaries and politicians. It's easier to meet them overseas than in Nigeria. So maybe in some of those occasions, you can give him a warm welcoming or maybe with a clap offering. Thank you very much, whichever way.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, Mr. Martin, summarizing the topics as a whole, looking at the situation we are as a people and the agitation and the insecurity, and considering the level we've moved as a people for over 60 years of independence, is breakup really a solution?
Breakup might not be a solution, it might be a solution. Like I keep saying, there's nothing sacrosanct about Nigeria, and there's nothing wrong about Nigerians living together as one entity. But it has to be through agreement. The people accepting to live together.
Do you feel there will be agreement with what you are seeing with this current political airline?
If the platform is provided, there could be agreement.
How long should this agreement come into play?
It is a function of, is the government willing and ready to provide a platform for that negotiation?
We are having one last caller, and I think this should be the last call for today. Good evening.
Good evening. Is that Flip TV?
Yes, this is Flip TV. Good evening. What's your name and where are you calling from, please?
Ade from Manchester.
Okay, Mr. Ade from Manchester. Please go on with your contribution, please.
So I heard what they are talking there in the studio, but I think in Nigerians, why do we have to sweep the most important thing that matters under the carpet, and you're talking about Twitter, not Twitter? Why are we so obsessed about rubbish and flimsy things? Nobody's talking about the slaughtering of lives that are going on in various states, how mourners were hacked down, people who are crying for their bereaved were attacked and hacked down, people who
No, Mr. Adi, Adibin, you were following our. Hello, Mr. Adi.
Why has life become so cheap?
Hello, Mr. Adi. Hello, sir. Hello. If you're following our conversation prior to this time, we've talked about insecurity, we've talked about Ibarapa, we've talked about the killings, and before we're rounding up before your call came in, so you're the last caller, and we have less than 1 minute.
The narrative shouldn't change from the most important thing. The narrative shouldn't change. Last time, so a woman from American consulate here, American embassy here, a woman, not because she thought this was America, and she was driving on the right hand side as they're driving America, and she locked a British guy that one had it done. The guy died, and British government took it up on themselves to seek justice for the guy. Just a single boy who nobody knows from the village.
Okay, Mr.
American woman drove out of her
Okay.
embassy.
Okay, Mr. Ade, we are out of time. My directors
People are being happy. There are hundreds and hundreds, and Nigerian people are talking rubbish on Twitter. Why are you people? I'm surprised you guys, the youth, who supposed to advise the government, where you're driving to lies. I'm talking about Twitter. You people, I'm disappointed in you guys, really.
Actually, the conversation is not centered only on Twitter, sir.
Where there is safety, where there is security. Those are the people who are guiding our mothers and fathers in the village.
Yeah,
Those are the
okay.
people who are looking after our village. Are you going to stay in Lagos forever?
Okay,
Will you live in Lagos forever?
okay, Mr. Ade.
You show some sense, please.
Okay.
Show some sense. We are Nigerian. You take life. Look, so that's why these guys in government take you guys for granted.
Okay,
They
Mr.
are
Ade.
calling your brothers and sisters in the village every day, hundreds, and you're talking about Facebook, Twitter. You guys you should be ashamed of yourself.
Okay, thank you very much,
They
Mr.
only have
Ade.
to pacify you with
Actually, the discussion is not restricted to Twitter.
Yeah, I think Mr. Ade was not following our conversation, and I don't
Because you
think he has
follow
been
from
following Flip
You
TV.
understand that
Yes.
it is not restricted to
On
Twitter.
our channel page, I think if he has been following, we report more of insecurity than any other issue because life is the most paramount thing that the station does. So maybe if he follows by tomorrow morning 8:30 a.m. we'll always Flip TV is on live for conversation on national issues. And in summary, Mr. Matthew, what do we have? Because we've run out of time now.
As I was saying, the issue is the government should provide a platform for negotiation for people to come and ventilate their grievances.
Okay, thank you.
And until we do that, we are not seeing solution.
Okay, thank you very much. For all our viewers at home, this is the Pundits. It will be coming up every day, Mondays to Saturday, 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. So for comments and observation, you can as well send messages via our platforms and also call in during the program. Do have a wonderful day.